I'm Kara Dennison. I'm the community manager. I'll be asking you some questions from your fans in America, and I'm very much looking forward to this.
And thank you so much for your wonderful note. It really meant a lot. Thank you. This means a lot.
All right. All right, well, when we told our fans, we referred to our attendees as regenerators. We told them that we were going to be interviewing you, and many of them sent you fantastic questions. So I'm going to let you know who each one is from. We'll see if there's in the audience, too. Your first question is from Colin McGill. Oh, dear. Colin, if you sent in a question, are you here? Oh. Okay, well, he would like to know, when you first started as an actor, where did you see yourself?
When I first started, I saw myself up in lights. Yes, I saw myself up in lights and twinkling and cars riding and people cheering and things like that. That's the honest answer. Of course, it didn't quite work out like that. It was full of hope, no?
Oh, absolutely. Arnold Bloomberg, who is one of our guests of honor this weekend also, he asked, were you already watching Doctor Who before you were cast?
No, I wasn't really watching Doctor Who before I was cast, but looking back on it, I realized that I was playing Doctor Who years before I got the part. Well, I think so, yes. You know, I had a natural, when I got the part, I had such a natural empathy with this kind of magic way of having adventures and playing a benevolent hero who was a nice fellow. and who was greatly loved by everybody. I enjoyed being loved, you know. In my weak moments, I enjoy being worshipped.
I think you're probably set here.
Ask me some more questions.
Oh, we've got plenty. Ryan Burke asked, I read that you were mixing cement at a construction site when you first received the news that you got the part of the Doctor. Did you quit then and there, or did you finish mixing the cement?
I was tempted to quit, but I couldn't because I was sworn to secrecy. For when the BBC told me that I had the part, they swore me to secrecy for 2 weeks. It was a terrible thing to do. I work for 2 weeks, knowing that I had got one of the best parts in English television. And I couldn't tell anyone. I really could not tell anyone because I couldn't trust anyone to keep that secret. It was a very hard 2 weeks. And then, anyway, one day, the man used to tease me by calling me Sir Lawrence Olivier. And I said, I've got to go out for a job tomorrow. It was in fact the announcement, the press announcement. And the chaps all used to like to have a bet on horses. And they used to buy the first edition paper at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that day, it was an enormous event at BBC, and I was on the front page. And the guys went to the betting shop to put on their bets, and there I was. And what amazed them was that the next morning I did turn into work on the building site. You know, to thank them and be with them, and they were very, very impressed. And it was charming, yes, absolutely charming. They were so thrilled for me. You know, it was a big event because, for me especially, I've been out of work for some time and had some disappointments, and I'd had a mild flirtation with movies, and it hadn't all worked out. And so I was really, it was a great relief. And looking back on it, of course, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the only part I've ever done where I didn't really have to reach for it. You know, it was That's what I meant about being Doctor Who before I got it. I've been brought up to believe in the impossible. The difference between science fantasy and science fiction is that in science fantasy there are no rules. They're just characters who do magical things, who dematerialize and do good deeds, and there's a pretty girl and an old man, and they get up to all sorts of adventures. That's how beautiful it is. Now, I was brought up to believe in miracles and forgiveness and in being kind and everything. I come from a very religious background. And so I believed in all that. It was very easy for me to play Doctor Who and and do all those tricks, you know, with my sonic screwdriver, or never destroying the Daleks, but being finally a good egg, as they used to say. I was ready for it, you know, and yeah, ask me another question.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Paula Luther asks, what was it like the first time you wore your costume?
Well, the costume actually evolved because I got the part a couple of months before we started shooting. I was out with Jim Atchison, the designer, and we went to different wardrobes all over London and tried on all sorts of clothes, and it evolved, you know, this kind of crazy old student look, you know, with the big jacket and the baggy trousers and especially the scarf. The scarf came in by accident. Jim Atchison laid out the colours, and then he bought, you know, a truckload of wool, and he sent this wool to a woman with a charming name called Begonia Pope. I've often talked about this. And Begonia Pope was so thrilled to be working with the BBC, she knitted up his scarf, and she didn't actually phone Jim to say, when do I stop? It was a van load of wool. So when we went to collect the scarf, she couldn't open the front door of her apartment. About 58 feet long. And we had to cut it down a bit. But that's how it happened. Jim liked it long. The longer the better. It turned out to be very amusing. And it became a little totem Doctor Who.
It did. We have a lot of scars in the audience.
The way I was, yes.
Funnily enough, that leads into very much into the next question from Ginger Long Windsor. How many times, if any, did you trip over that scar?
Countless times. It wouldn't be allowed now. We couldn't use a costume like that now because of health and safety everywhere. Especially when it got heavy in the rain, you know, on location. And sometimes I felt quite badly. But the thing is that everybody liked the longer, and children were actually wearing long scarves and falling over. You know. They were allowed to fall over and break their ankles.
Speaking of things that were iconic of the Fourth Doctor, Stephanie Smith wants to know, did you actually enjoy Jelly Babies?
Well, I enjoyed the idea. It was my silly idea to show contempt for a villain. And when somebody was threatening, instead of making a speech, I was playing a sort of innocent character who, when his life was in danger, would say to the man who was about to kill him, "Would you like a jelly baby?" Yes, thanks. Well, that's what I thought. I thought it was funny. And gradually, now I sign thousands of pictures to people, St. George, you know, would you like a jelly baby? People like those benevolently silly things, and I, you know, I'm a great source of benevolently silly things. Go on, ask them.
Sort of along that line, with the new series, they've been bringing back the Jelly Babies. We had the nice Jelly Babies in the cigarette case, if you saw that.
Is that so? I
Yes.
didn't know that.
In Mummy on the Orient Express, the 12th Doctor brought out a cigarette case, and there were Jelly Babies in it. And I believe that was Peter Capaldi's idea.
Really? When I congratulated him, he sent me a very nice email thanking me and saying how much he had been a great fan of Doctor Who for many years. He was a good choice, I think. I caught a glimpse of him I like that bony face. He really looks as if he comes from somewhere elsewhere. But anyway, so much for the jury.
Also from Stephanie Smith, what was your funniest experience on the set of Doctor Who?
I don't know I don't know, I can't recall a particularly funny perhaps I remember one time I was held up in the bar after a recording was, and I couldn't get a drink. Every time I picked up my drink, somebody asked me to sign something. After about an hour, and the others were all getting very tipsy, and I was still utterly sober. Feeling terribly martyred, I left the restaurant where we were, and I went down to Shepherd's Bush, which was about a few hundred yards away, dark now, late at night, and a man came up to me, and he gave me a piece of paper, and he said, "Here." And so I took the piece of paper, and I wrote, "Best wishes, Tom Baker, Doctor Who." And he looked at it, and he said, "What's this?" So I said, "It's an autograph." And he looked at me, he turned it over, he said, no, where is Uxbridge Road?"
Funnily enough, that answer is the exact opposite of the next question, which comes from Leslie Priscilla, who says, what were the first circumstances under which you were recognized for your role in Doctor Who, and what were the strangest circumstances?
Well, I don't know about the strangest, but the first time in that part of London, I lived in Nottingham Gate, and one day, after about the second transmission, I happened to come out of a little electrical shop where I'd been buying a torch or something, and a coach drew up, about 60 children in it, and they recognized me. And they all rushed to the side of the coach, near where I was, and it tilted slightly with all these children. They all came piling out, and I was absolutely buried in children. This wonderful, this kind of speed of which they felt an affection for this silly hero, and when it was all over and they got them back onto the bus and they went away cheering and waving, and the man in the shop said, "It must be marvelous," he said, to be recognized like that, Tom. He said, "I was only thinking while that was happening, his name was Dimitri." And he said, "I thought to myself, why should Tom Baker have all this attention and nobody knows Dimitri?" I had to try and console him. I said, "Well, I know you, Dimitri." Yeah, that's true. And I said, "I'm your wife, folks." I saw her talking to you the other day. and your children know you, and God knows you. That's not a bad audience. He said, "Yeah, but I prefer millions." Everybody wants to be loved and adored. I think, and if they don't, I don't want to know. I'm not interested in people who aren't interested in love. Right, ask me another question.
All right. Debates Joking asks, have you ever debated being the master, even if it was just him disguised as the doctor?
Well, when the series came back after a long hiatus, I was hoping that the BBC might actually offer me the part of the master, for this reason, that in villainy and heroes, Sherlock Holmes or Superman or whatever it is, the villain and the hero are interdependent. They have no separate existence without each other. So, in a sense, Sherlock Holmes, what we would point to Sherlock Holmes without Moriarty or something, or the Doctor without the Master. And I thought it would be really sinister and strange. Of course, I had changed over those years. I had become old and not very active, but I could have played the Master, which was slow and deliberate. And so I sent a message to the BBC and waited by the telephone. And I lost a lot of weight because after about 3 weeks of waiting down the phone, and my wife checked the connection there. But I've forgiven. used to rejection. Well, sometimes it's good for them. I'm still rejected, but I offer lines when I'm recording. I'm still playing Doctor Who for the mighty Big Finish productions.
Yes.
I offer them lines, but I understand that when they reject me. And sometimes they don't reject me, but we do it two ways, and then as soon as my back's turned, they cuss it.
Speaking of Big Finish, Katie Haynes would like to know, what made you finally decide to bring the fourth Doctor back by a Big Finish?
Well, I happened to meet David Richardson and Nicholas Briggs, who are executives and directors on Big Finish, and they were just such charming boys. And they said they really wanted to write scripts for me. And I said, well, that would be very interesting. Where do you live? I mean, where would you record it? And they said, in North London. Now, I live now in East Sussex, and I live in a little paradise with a dog and my wife and the cats and a herd of deer and a few sheep and some woodland. It's a little Eden, a little garden of Eden, and I said, no, I don't think I could go to North London. I don't like North London. It's kind of depressing about this. Anyway, the next day the phone went, and it was Nick and David Richardson, and they said, suppose we come to you. I said, you're on. and that's the way it's been now for this fifth year. I think it's beginning the fifth year. And they come to a studio very near me called Sorcery. It's good, isn't it? A magic name for where they record Doctor Who. And so I turn up at Sorcery Studios, a small car ride away, and the other actors come down from London to meet me. And we have these wonderful 2 long day meetings and rehearsals and everything. And we laugh from morning till night. It's very agreeable. I love to laugh, and the other actors love to come down here. And so that's how it is. I hope it will go on. They have big plans for me. Will you ask me another question?
we have many.
Okay.
We have a lot. Ilona June Berberich wants to know, would you be open to Big Finish creating a new companion for you?
That's an interesting question. I doubt that would happen for a simple reason. Bringing me back is about nostalgia. Nostalgia is that sort of word that means a kind of ache, a desire to go back. That's what nostalgia is. It's going back. And so when we meet a hero, and we all have heroes, when we meet a hero from our childhood, nostalgia triggers that feeling of going back to childhood and being happy when one was still full of hopes and not being disappointed. And so I think the idea of bringing me back is a nostalgic idea, to go back to when the fans were young and keep me in the past. I'm an old doctor. I mean, they bring in new villains and things like that. But I think they probably wouldn't bring in another girl, unless, of course, because sadly, as the fans know, 2 of the girls that I worked with have already died. Elizabeth Sladen, who was the first one I knew, and of course Mary Tabb. They died. So now I imagine that the scripts are divided between Lalla Ward, and Louise Jameson. And there are enough stories to keep those girls in the series with me without bringing anyone else in, because I'm rather set in my ways anyway. As I keep telling you, yes. Go on. Yes.
Richard Starling would like to know, how did being the Doctor influence your life after you hung up the scarf?
Well, I may have hung up the scarf, but I mean, I never stopped being Doctor Who. I mean, I am Doctor Who. Peter Capaldi would like to hear that. I mean it in the sense that it was so successful and so wonderful that everything I did after didn't quite match it, So no matter what I played afterwards. I went back to the theatre and did all sorts of things. And nothing quite worked out, although everything I did in the theatre was very successful, because of course the wonderful Doctor Who fans, who never get tired of their love, doesn't wear out, you know, and they used to come and see me, and so the theatres were always full. And there was me up on stage and playing an Inspector Calls or Macbeth or in She Stoops to Conquer or whatever, but I knew what the fans wanted. They wanted to see me, and so whatever I did, I played it like Doctor Who. And the fans loved it, you know, the other actors hated it. Because all I cared about was whether the fans liked it. I wasn't doing it for the other actors, I was doing it for the fans. And so even when I played Macbeth, people came to see me in Macbeth, of course, and afterwards one of the reviewers said, "We went last night to see Tom Baker playing Macbeth, and we had no idea what a nice man he was." A wonderful compliment to him. Yeah, what a great murderer. They said he didn't really want to kill those children. And it's still my heart wasn't in it. I wasn't up to it. So I never stopped being Doctor Who. There's no point, is there? If I stopped playing Doctor Who, no one would recognize me. In the streets, you know. A man stopped me the other day in London, in the middle of Soho, and he stopped me and he said, "Stop!" They said, "Just don't move." And I thought maybe he was wrong. And I said, "I've got the money in my right-hand pocket." And I looked the other way while you robbed me. He said, no, wait. And some people gathered around. He said, "This man is a legend." I know to a legend. But these people were all, from Eastern Europe, and they didn't speak English. And they didn't know what a legend was. And the guy wouldn't take the money. It was all
Katie Haynes' daughter would like to know, how do you feel about the Doctor now having a wife, i.e. River Song?
Wow, I think that's a very strange idea. Very strange idea. Then why not the children? And then why not a mortgage? You know? Why not? I think it's better to keep him out in the atmosphere somewhere. I mean, a wife, he would have duties to a wife. And suppose she started nagging him. I mean, he can't just start threatening his wife with a sonic screwdriver. Really? I don't think that's a very, very good idea. I've been married several times. There you are. So no wife. I mean, I have a wife. Quite very tall. Well, I mean, when she's standing up, she's quite good. She looks quite good. Will you be asking another question?
Yes. I definitely keep asking you questions. Angela Monahan, again, would like to know... Oh, nice. Angela Monahan would like to know, which Doctor besides your own is your favorite?
Oh, listen, you might be shocked to know, I hope you won't be shocked, but you might be shocked to know that I don't watch Doctor Who.